and you'll be the primary reader as well as one of the key evaluators in the oral defense. In the project manual that's there, there's 2 assessments. One is the assessment of the paper, and the other is the assessment of the presentation or the defense itself. The defense isn't as critical. The defense is, we want to have them guide you so that you, well, maybe there is a little bit of critical assessment to that. Making sure that they truly have evaluated. What I have found is that in terms of a PhD compared to a D-Min, it's not so much about the final product. Did you succeed in your hypothesis? That's a PhD's. Are you successful in all the efforts that you've had? The D-Min, whether you were successful or not, did you grow? Did you learn? And so their assessment is going to be important. How does this affect me? Where was God in the midst of this? Again, more qualitative than quantitative. Did we have the numbers? Did we succeed in this? That's going to be important. But the major part, I think, of the D-Min is, did you grow? Academically, in terms of spiritually, personally, professionally, has there been evidence of that sort of growth that's there? But the doctoral research project, there is a timetable that is given both in the handbook and at the end of the guide, the manual. It's almost that's a timetable. I don't think it's in increments of months or weeks, but it helps you to gauge at what point should I be, and to what degree should I be engaged with the student. Maybe some it's once a month, others bi-weekly. During these classes, it could be 1 weekly, possibly. So that'll help out at least to see where you're at in the rhythm of the relationship you have with the student all the way to the end. I have a feeling once you walk these 3 years with the students, you're going to still be with them as friends and mentors. Just organically, I think that relationship is going to happen. Any questions?
So you are essentially anticipating then that the mentor would serve as the dissertation chair?
I think I would probably maintain that responsibility as the chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
First reader.
First reader. You would be the first reader, almost as more their advocate.
Okay.
It's the support that's there for them. Yeah.
I would prefer that.
Sure.
Is the first reader responsibility, that's in with the doctoral project pieces, right? That's part of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the one who does the bulk of the reading of drafts,
Right.
step by step.
Yeah.
So where will the third person come from? Will you appoint them? Will the student get to choose them?
So student can probably just suggest or.
I think it would come through a relationship of the first reader, myself, and the student.
Okay.
As we begin to assess what the project is, maybe even as they're going through this project, what deficiencies there might be, that this reader can come on and help them with whatever deficiency in that process that perhaps the reader doesn't, the first reader doesn't excel in, but I would excel in. Wherever we're lacking to assist the student, bringing that kind of person, ideally, that would be great. Sure. Okay.
I know that when we were talking about the possibilities of me coming on and stuff, we talked, coaching came up as part of that deal. I'm wondering if there would be opportunity for coaching, training for some of us as mentors. I think it may help.
Absolutely.
Are you volunteering?
Well, I would just maybe a simple model,
Yes.
a few skills.
I would love that. I'm sure every mentor would appreciate that as well. Some that doesn't come natural, but they have some steps already in mind and how to approach that relationship. I think great. Well, yeah, let's do that and see how that would flesh out.
They make a really big deal in coach training about the difference between a mentor and a coach and like a counselor.
Sure.
And even having that in our minds, because if we're primarily mentors, that's one thing. I'm helping you get where I've gone. But your program is really not designed like that. You're designed to help a person in their context, figure out their situation.
Which is a coach.
Although, if we need to have the mentoring background, like we need to have expertise, that's a mentor, which at times they will draw on our strength. But if we're still saying, hey, I'm just a resource, what are you trying to accomplish?
You can actually wrestle a little bit
Yeah.
with what terms to use for this particular role.
And using the word mentor, that was a part of our own lenses of choosing the mentors. Is, okay, well, this person is looking more at curriculum. Okay, well, let's get someone who is familiar with the curriculum. This person is looking at leadership development or discipleship. Okay, let's get Dan involved in this. A leadership component. So it wasn't a children's ones involved in children's ministry. Oh, Chris Gordon would be great. So there is the expertise in that. But I do think, though, bringing in even a third, because there's still, even in the midst of children's ministry, there may be one facet that Chris is saying, I don't have the handle on this, but bring someone else in that could balance that would be great. So I think there is that expertise extended for a mentor, but the uniqueness in that context does still separate that mentor to be perhaps a coach. But for them to understand the difference and utilize those, whichever hat would fit on that occasion, I think would be great.
And there will be times where it doesn't fit the traditional definition. Like Rich Wilkerson is going to be in our first cohort. Whoever is his mentor is not better at doing what he's done. I mean, you just aren't. We haven't been there and done. We don't pastor a church of 4,000 people, but we bring an expertise from the academic arena. We've been through this process before, so our role as mentor is not so much to mentor him in how to pastor a church in inner city Miami that's a mega church, but rather to serve as a mentor for how do you take research and apply it in ministry. So it may be a little bit more narrow in that, because I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes I can feel a little intimidated because some of these people were, doing way more than I've ever done in their context. So what do I have to bring to the table? Well, as those guys will tell us, like even Rich will be a part of the panel. Yeah, there's a lot that we can bring. It's just different. It's not doing what they are doing that we're bringing to the table. It is helping them to think about things from a new perspective, giving some tools to
Yeah, coaching actually frees you from that. In fact, it's almost better that you don't have any background, because when you coach, you can say, well, where would you find that out? And
You're not even tempted to give an answer.
so you don't give an answer.
Well, do you have any other heavy hitters like that? Or is he the main one?
He's going to be the biggest. We have some pretty good curve for sure.
Yeah, and he would be the
And in fact, Jim, are you going to hand him the list? Sure, do you know what
yes,
it is?
I did make copies of that. No, I didn't. I made one copy for myself. Here's what I will do, because what I'd like to do is also send you, with your individual, send you their vitae and their essay. And some they haven't turned them in yet, so they are not officially accepted. So once those come in, I'll send them to you, and I'll talk specifically. Because I think for me to give you some insights will also be helpful to you, rather than just the paper.
So you mentioned, I'm absolutely willing to do that and enjoy it, but there are some people that I hang out with that would be better than me for doing that, then I can probably get them to come over.
We'll take a look, maybe before you promise them, take a look at Bryce and what we recommend and how we can do that. I mean, that was part of our goal for, always timing is everything, but maybe the end of the semester, we get down in November or something, we'll be ready to launch it, and we have a time to get it ready together.
That would be good. Similar to this occasion, it would put us even more on the same page.
Right, we're getting closer, we would know those students better.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any other questions you might have for Alan or myself?
This has been very helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, good, excellent presentation. I don't know what kind of group we're getting, and I'm sure it's a very...
We can give you the real summary of the people if you're interested.
I think that, my main challenge here, if I can just be transparent, has been the kinds of things we emphasize in the church growth movement, which includes obviously the charismatic movement or whatever they're calling it now. I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be called the charismatic movement. I think sometimes they kind of run counter to some of the things we emphasize when we talk about theology, spirituality, and that's why you have oftentimes a sort of a negative view towards academia in the so-called church growth world, because you're not emphasizing, you're emphasizing growth. If I could just be honest, above everything else. I mean, you're not emphasizing necessarily ethics or theology or you know, even biblical ideas. You're emphasizing growth. And I'm going to be interested to see what kind of group we get and how they, I just want to see how they think about things like that. Because that's what makes, what makes headlines is growth and not necessarily being true to, I'm a little extreme, but not necessarily being true to anything really that necessarily that Christianity has traditionally been about. So I'm concerned about that. So I'm interested to see where this group's coming from. I'm sure you'll have a variety. I'm just curious.
I have a feeling every cohort's going to be different because they all bring these to the table for their own assumptions and prejudices. And in my research now of the DMIN programs, that has been one of the fundamental priorities. In that the goal is not the goal is not the goal. It is growth and maturity. In fact, even if you look at ATS and their qualifications, not qualifications, but measurements, it is the growth of the minister, him or herself, spiritually, professionally. But how is the process? Are they growing? When I was talking to Earl Kress on the spiritual retreat, my concern was we're having these professional spiritual guides and pastors, and they're coming in, and I can already see whether they're going to admit or not. There's going to be a tension of, okay, well, I'm a pastor, and maybe I need to flex how spiritual mature I am. But in this, it's not so much a matter of, okay, let's just show off where you're at spiritually, but you need to be open and vulnerable and walk in that process. So it is a character issue, especially in that class. And that's why even when we look at this assessment,
which class is that again?
It's called spiritual health.
Okay.
We'll call it a spiritual formation.
But you're saying really that's the goal of the entire program.
Yes, it is.
Even though that class focuses.
We haven't had opportunity to even do this yet, but for this cohort, unfortunately, one of the things I'd like to do is have some personal goals for the students in an orientation course. Well, what are some personal goals, spiritual personal goals, and throughout that opportunity, you have my responsibility would be to help them in growing through those spiritual goals. So it's not just academic or professional, but it's a spiritual growth that's taking place. I really believe if we're producing doctors in the church, like you'd have doctors in a hospital, not only should they know the answer, but they ought to be living the example of what health is about. So that can't be academic, just academic.
Just the whole side of that. So, because of where I just came from, and the whole spiritual coaching side of things, it's really tough when people are really public people to have a private place where they can be. And as a coach, I can't even tell you who I've coached because they can say, or they can tell you it's okay to say, but I can't. I don't talk about them. But once they know they have a safe place to be, and they can literally walk out their Christian questions and struggles and stuff. There's tremendous growth, but it's also a really it's a really sensitive place to be, because our culture is more heightened in that area, I think, as Pentecostals, because we kind of, I don't want to say show off more than anybody, but there's kind of an external piece to our public life that makes it even more difficult in a way to be. And I think we have an incredible opportunity to create honesty and spiritual development. And then let me say, I said that, now I'm going to say the other side of it. What I really want to say is, one of the most difficult things about where I've just come from is how sad the spiritual development side of it is, and the lack of spiritual depth. Coach. Yeah. And they can't talk about it. They can preach amazingly about it, but the actual living side of it and the major missing components of their life are, it's totally precious from my side to be able to walk through that with people who were launched too quickly into public eye or whatever, and never developed, just basic disciplines of all kinds of stuff. And I don't know how to kind of integrate that piece into it, but as you're talking, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what an opportunity. Maybe there could be an optional, like, coaching side of it, but part of me doesn't want to offer that in, like me, because there's too many hats. And even as a coach, you really can't do this conflict of interest. But maybe outside of here, maybe there could be a group of coaches or something that a person could, or even emerge for some of the guys I coach. They have an area, and I'll say, you should go to emerge, and it's part of that piece.
I think you're right. I'll tell you, my degrees are in counseling, and I've picked up already in some more conversations with individuals. Thank you, Andrew.
Really good. Thank you. If I've got a meeting, I've got to get to, but thank you.
Thank you, sir. Of some of them are posturing themselves, trying to communicate that I'm worthy of this, and let me tell you why, indirectly. And I'm hoping that will break down, that they'll establish such a good camaraderie and trust within. I think that's why having this spiritual formation on this side is important, because I'm hoping, and talking to Earl Krebs, we want to break down those walls of having that mask up, that my identity is in what I do. And so if I'm successful, then I'm going to hold tight to that. If I'm not successful, then I'm going to try extra hard to try to fool you and thinking, and they hold to that identity and not realizing, if we just be honest and take this off, I'm probably more successful. And even if I'm not successful, I'm successful if I'm real. I think that's what the church really needs. I think if we create that, if our mentors, faculty, can communicate that this is not just so you can get that degree, but that we can grow as children of God, and begin to, because of that reality, begin to model that for the rest of the church. Walk with me, as I'm simply a child walking with Jesus. What a great opportunity we have. And thank you so much for being here, folks. Let's go ahead and close. Could you close us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for allowing us to serve you and your people here at this incredible institution, for blessing us with the opportunity to launch a Doctor of Ministry degree. And I pray for each of those students who are coming in from their different places, whatever's bringing them here, Lord, that these next few years would just transform them. And Lord, for your kingdom's sake. And Lord, they would be healthier people. Help us as mentors to do our part in that. Pray for those mentors who were not able to be here today, but pray again that there would be just a perfect fit every step of the way. And help all of our students to get prepared to come back to school, and all of our faculty make this the best year we've ever had. We depend on you to enable us to do that. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Jim.
Jim, if you have a protege already assigned just to you, is that the implication I heard a moment ago?
Yes, we do.
I'd love to